This episode of Buzz is brought to you by Podium, the premier messaging platform that helps customers interact with your practice. Podium, messaging made simple.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Buzz. I'm your host, Brad, and we're welcoming special guest, Jono Andrews. How are you?
Good. How are you, Brad?
I'm doing good. What are you up to?
Just at my home office, enjoying another day in Utah.
Nice. Well, thanks for joining us. And just for everyone listening, Jono is the Group Product Marketing Manager at Podium, one of the most stealth mode, most impactful companies around. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brad. Honestly, it's an honor to be on, just because I know how important it is for all the good work that the dental offices are doing right now across the U.S.
Yeah, it's great. Very exciting time to be in dentistry, marketing, technology, that overlap of all these things coming together. And it's really exciting to be partnering up with Podium, because you guys have released some really stealth mode products over the years, whether it's web chat, video chat, obviously review functionality. But you've recently come up with a new product called Voice. And for me, this is huge, because I can't tell you how many times I'll call a practice, whether it's a client, a friend, or whatever, and no one answers, right? It goes to voicemail. And I think the stats are something around 35% of people that call a business and get an answer machine won't call back. So I'm really excited about Voice. What is Voice, and how does this work with your platform?
Yeah, so a really quick kind of example, I guess, of what Voice can do is really, so Voice is going to be kind of our larger umbrella of a product. Our first release, kind of our V1, what you kind of alluded to just barely, is really there to help kind of these offices to be able to manage missed calls and voicemails. Because typically what happens is, from what our research showed, customers will basically have some sort of connector with their VoIP system or their calling system, to where the inbox will just basically just be a place where they have to log in and check couple times a day and hope to not miss anybody. And that can kind of create some problems just because of response time and everything else for a client of theirs. And so what we've noticed is that if you connect your calls, your actual phone number or your actual phone to Podium, basically whenever you miss a call or you have a voicemail, it'll actually be routed into Podium so that you'll be notified immediately of that missed notification. And that obviously helps with a lot of different problems across, response time. Again, I said that, but also really around making sure that the customer experience or the client experience is that much better for them.
Interesting. So if the team's out for lunch, or they're closed, or it's the weekend, whoever has access to the Podium account, Podium dashboard through the app, would get notified, and then they could pick up the phone and respond with a call or a text.
Yeah, so like myself, and I'm sure everyone else has had their fair share of emergencies, especially in dental. I remember when I was in second grade, I got tripped and at school, and I chipped my front tooth. And of course, that's an immediate, I need someone as fast as we possibly can. And we were actually new to the area. My family had moved to Maryland. And, kind of first call, first person to get on the phone was going to get our business. And, studies show that 50% of consumers will go with the first business that responds to them. And we all kind of know that headache really of phone tag that happens. Oh, dang it, we missed the phone call, we'll call them back. Well, then the person calls up, or picks up, and actually has the conversation and be able to actually, provide a service through that. Obviously, the law of averages will start to go against them. And so we're just trying to figure out how do we make that so much better for consumers. And what's awesome is with the Podium connector is that when you connect with Podium, you can either choose to respond by phone, or you can actually respond through text. which is, we've seen the data, the response of that is so much better from a consumer's side. Like we were having a conversation with a customer of ours, and they were telling us that typically a client of theirs will call in through their lunch break and need something, and they just happen to miss them. And then they'll call them back. And by that time, that customer is actually already back to work. They can't pick up their phone because they're doing something else. They're not waiting around like looking at their phone, obviously. But when they get that kind of notification through text, it then just sparks, back and forth, able to kind of figure out what exactly is going on, and then help them in any way they possibly can. So it's kind of like best of both worlds, because you get the notification immediately of that you missed something, and then the second thing is you can respond directly to text. The cool thing too is that a client can also, if they do call into this dental practice, for example, like my mother did when I had my chipped tooth, she could have actually left either a voicemail, or now if they were today, could also leave a text, so they can actually start a conversation that way, which is also pretty powerful as well. So
what do you mean with how would they start a conversation with the text?
Yeah, so like they can choose to actually when the prompt comes up and they've missed the call, they'll be able to be given two options. They can leave the voicemail the way that it is, and they'll come into Podium, or they can start a text thread, which basically prompts the person, the consumer or the patient, to be able to actually have that conversation started through text messaging.
Oh, nice.
And so that way, that way, then the practice can actually respond that way too.
Is it like a voice to text, or like while they're on the call, do they hit like 7 or something?
It's like that. So yeah, they'll hit number 7, and then they can start to they'll actually create. They can actually text that number back to the company, and the company will be able to kind of go.
That's fantastic. That whole micro moment, that first touch point with a potential new patient with an office is so huge. And that's why when I saw the announcement with Podium releasing voice, it was like, oh, finally there's a great solution, because missed calls, I really, it's one of those weird things I don't understand, right? A lot of practices spending a lot of money, creativity, resources into marketing, into paid ads, and to lose those potential leads based on no one answering, no call service, or I've actually, like, a number of times recently, like, for sure, we're getting responses like, oh, yeah, like if we send something like on a Thursday, like an email on a Thursday, like, oh, we'll let you know Monday morning when I check the email again. Like, forget phone calls, like form submissions are going 4 days sometimes, and that patient's long gone, right? So you mentioned that 50% of people will go to the first person that responds. You work in a lot of different verticals, right? We're talking dentistry now, but in your experience, like, what's a weird random number you've seen in terms of what's the average response time that most businesses should aspire to? How long until they respond to that first text or phone call?
Yeah, it's a good question. There was a study there done in 2007 that showed that SMB, so small to medium-sized businesses, will respond to about 48 minutes to a request. And what we're seeing actually is some of our customers are actually pushing to go to 1 minute, where they're saying that if they're over 3 minutes, that person's already moved on. And that's obviously really apparent with some of the verticals that are dealing with pretty big emergencies, like their water heater just exploded in their house, where they've got water trickling out, or they've got a pipe burst, or they've got ants in the home, or even back to my story about a kid chipping my own tooth. Like, that's pretty big. I remember in high school I was biting on a pen and it chipped again, and so it's like I literally showed my teacher, and she was like, "What are you doing? This is in the middle of a test." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, go to the office." And so I was able to call my mom, and again, finding the right dentist there again. But yeah, like, that's the thing. It's like, you spend all this money and time. Like, I remember having conversations with customers, and their goal was 24 hours or less. And I'm like, 24 hours? Like, man, if I'm stuck somewhere and I've got a pain that's happening, or my kids, they've got something that needs to be filled immediately, there's no way I'm going to wait 24 hours patiently because I made one phone call to one dentist. I'm going to go I'm going to go through search. I'm going to find ones with the best reviews, and I'm just going to dial until I get somebody to respond back to me. And again, being able to connect those two kind of platforms of your voice, your actual call product, and then connecting it to Podium really alleviates that pain, because then you don't have to check in two different places. It's really just checking in one place and then responding in the way that that your client actually wants to be responded to, which is through text. And so yeah, it's kind of, again, like I said before, it's like best of both worlds. But yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. And aren't there some really funny numbers with like pest control, right? Because like if someone's got emergency dental needs, that's going to be more urgent, like pain and get me in. As someone shopping around for all-on-4 dental implants, they'll probably do a little more homework and be a little more chill on time sensitivity, although
Absolutely.
It's going to matter who's responding, because a lag time on response, at least for me, is a total red flag of bad business systems, and who knows what else is going on. So there's so many benefits of responding quickly, but Pest has got a different time frame, right?
Yeah, they were back to that. This specific person, Tiffany, she's the manager of operations over at Adams Pest Control. They shoot for 1 minute, which is crazy.
It's crazy.
Considering the fact, again, we're talking about other people who are shooting for 24 hours.
Yeah,
they respond in 1 minute or less. That's what their average is. But they are saying that if they're not 3 minutes or less, then they're going to lose all that opportunity right there. And obviously, if your reviews are good, like I talked about before, your inbound traffic is going to increase, which then increases a lot of different other things too for your business.
Yeah.
But that's why we're trying to obviously help alleviate some of that additional work that can kind of create for your front desk person by creating kind of like an easier way to respond.
Yeah, it's fascinating. One of the most successful practices we've ever known or worked with. It's this incredible practice in Los Angeles, actually, and their front desk person is such a rock star. Within 5 minutes of a website submission, she's picking up the phone. Thanks so much for your inquiry. And this is a really, really high-end practice. And they convert like crazy. You mentioned the 2007 study. I mean, Podium, you guys got to do a white paper, a new study on this thing. Can't you just do a random aggregate of 1,000 businesses that use Podium randomly, not even choose the industry, and be like, after text, how long does it take for that response? And then give us that number. Is it 7 hours or whatever? And then give us the average. And then here's 10 best practices on how to chop off X on a percentage, because based on the data, the businesses that respond in this time frame, on average, will have a higher percent conversion rate. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, it's a great challenge for sure. One thing that we've written, we're just kind of testing the waters with this response time, because obviously with voice, we're starting to see more and more focus on it. But we wrote an article that I'm happy to share out the link to, specifically around response time. And another stat that we kind of pulled from was that basically, if a lead response is within 5 minutes or less, it's the ideal time frame, and like odds of converting the lead drop 80% or more if it's over that point. Again, it's like once you have that human on the other line as a business, you want to make sure that you can connect with them immediately. And if it doesn't happen, then what's the next best thing?
Yeah.
Right? Because then it's going back to phone tag, and I'm going to probably try 2 or 3 more times maybe, because they're going to have this likely story of other people who've inquired that day. And so it's just hard to do that. Like another customer of ours, Shasta Health, they basically had one of their offices closed for that day, and they had about 50 or 60 inquiries that all came through Podium because of voice. But it's funny because the manager there was basically saying, like, look, if we didn't have voice, we'd be out of business in a sense, because we wouldn't have enough people to be able to man all those inquiries, because they were trying to figure out when could they come in for their vaccine shot during this time of COVID, and then not being able to actually get anybody on the phone because the office was actually closed that day. And so that manager was actually able to just be in Podium and listen to each voicemail and actually push out a templated message to each one of them being able to send them basically a link for them to schedule their vaccine shot.
Wow.
So it's a great way for them to be able to kind of scale with what happens, as a business. So
that's fascinating. And in terms of the response, so let's say the office, let's stay focused on dental here for a second, right? Dental practice, they got the system in place. Any team member, when they get the notification, if they get the notification, they could respond to this potential patient or whatever it is. What should the response be? I mean, I sent a response to a developer last night, and there's a time difference, and it was just a simple response. Hey, Brad, I just want to let you know I got the request. I'll let you know as soon as I'm back in front of my computer tomorrow. I was like, awesome. Like, no rush. Just there was a confirmation. He got the request, right?
Yeah.
So for a dental practice, I'd say more personalization would be great. Amy, thank you so much for your call regarding porcelain veneers. Dr. Smith looked over your, virtual smile consultation submission. We'll get back to you tomorrow morning, first thing, with some potential office, times, something like that. So would you agree maybe like personalization is best, or is it just like a blanket template approach?
Well, the great thing is actually within Podium, you can create templates that have personalization on there. So if it's with someone who's actually already messaged in or has used like a web chat feature, for example, on the website, you'll know their first name, last name, and it's tied to the phone number. So when you send out the personalization message, it'll actually have it there. But absolutely, I mean, personalization, we've seen it not only just within text, but also with email and anything else that you're doing. It just creates kind of more of a human interaction, which every customer or consumer or patient honestly wants that. So yes. I think too that if you can't handle their inquiry at that exact moment in time, like you're away, if you're just giving them a heads up that you're going to get to them tomorrow morning first thing, I think it just creates more and more of that lasting impression that these people know what they're doing. Yeah. Like HubSpot, I referenced their article earlier about that 2007 study. They're talking about that specifically in that as well. I mean, if you think about just even with yourself, right? Like I'm calling around right now to try to get my basement finished, and I've talked to a couple different type of contractors, and I had one contractor actually respond, and they're coming out with a quote, and it took them 2 days to respond to me, and the others haven't responded at all. So there's just kind of like this, well, if I can't even get you to respond to me, how in the heck am I going to have faith that you're going to actually do the job and actually show up on time and get it all done when you say it's going to get done? So like with dental practices, I feel like it aligns very well with the same thing. One cool like hack that I noticed or that I keep seeing too is some of our customers will actually look at neighboring practices or businesses within that fit within their vertical. Once a month, and they'll kind of do almost like a competitive analysis. So they'll kind of like read their reviews and see where they're struggling the most and see if that's where they're struggling as well. So if it's communication, for example, or like response time, or I couldn't get a hold of them, or the office hours are ridiculous, there's ways there that you can kind of start to say, well, we can kind of create a little differentiator for our business or our practice because nobody else is really meeting the needs of these type of patients potentially. And I thought that was actually really intuitive for that client.
I like that. That's really cool. And it's always good to get feedback from new patients, existing patients. And I love finding inspiration from businesses I frequent all the time. I really, whether it's logo design, customer service, I want to ask you in a second about one of your favorite businesses in terms of brand or maybe places that you frequent in your area. But Supping Here is a place called Veggie Grill. They serve like, Beyond Meat and all these types of like fake buffalo wings and nachos. But like the nachos and wings from this place, like they're as good as like the real deal. And something like 90% of the people that eat there are carnivores. Like they eat meat. They just go there for like a vegetarian meal. But the place is like, so friendly, great ambience, but the customer service is so good, right? Like it's even when you go there, or if you do it through a delivery app, it's never going to take long. It's efficiently run, and I love those types of businesses where it's like aspirational. Like you go in You don't wait in line long. It's clean. It's friendly. The product is consistent. It's different. It's unique. You know, there's great energy there. I find inspiration from those types of businesses, whether it's things you go experience and eat in person, you know, whether it's websites, whether it's apps. Like, I love that type of stuff. I want to ask you, because you're obviously talking with a variety of different business owners, entrepreneurs on a regular basis. You work at one of those companies, right? Podium was one of the top 50 most innovative companies from Fast Company, which is my favorite magazine. 1 or 2 years ago, Podium was the fastest growing tech company in North America. So first off, what are some of your favorite brands or businesses and why? And B, what's it like working at Podium?
Yeah, gosh, great question. I can tell you a drastic change. So my wife and we've got 2 little kids. We were at a place called Sweet Lakes. It's up in Draper, so it's just like a 30-minute drive, but it's worth it because the food's so stinking good.
Yeah.
The waiter who was helping us out was incredibly like personable. He was on the ball, even though he was managing 11 tables. Funny enough, like my wife always pays the bill because she was in that space during college.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to, like, I could tip, like I know how to tip, but she just like has such a better gauge of like, this person deserves such a better tip. And I'm just like, you sign it. Like, that's like, this is your thing, even though like, it doesn't matter. Right. And this person totally got it because he was on top of everything. He saw, to the point even like, it's so funny that people don't realize this, like little details, but when you drop off a hot plate in front of a little kid, all they're going to want to do is touch the plate.
Yeah.
And so it's just like those like little things of just knowing about your customer doesn't want. Like I had to always move the plate away from my daughter so that she doesn't herself. But like I remember even having a great experience with my current dentist. Their practice is incredibly clean. Everyone kind of has like the things that they all need to have, right? Like you have to have a good waiting room. You offer them water. You create kind of this personal ambiance, like good music that plays. Now everyone has Roku or whatever, and you listen and watch a movie or whatever, so you don't have to hear your enamel or whatever, your tooth being drilled out, which is obviously a big bonus from when I was a kid. But I remember though, just like the personal details of when I check out and let's schedule your appointment right before I even get my teeth cleaned. Like things like that, like they're on the ball where normally like I don't think about that, but I want to make sure that my cleaning scheduled for the next 6 months out because I have it luckily through Podium that dental's covered. Yeah. And so it's like those little things to me is like, it's gold because I know that when you live and die as a practice through missed appointments or appointments being met, like that is such an important aspect to the business that I've learned at Podium now. And funny enough, like it's just, I don't know, it's just a level of like care, just a little bit more there that people, yes, they're smiling and that they welcome me and whatever else. Like that is good, but it's not necessarily a differentiator. But thinking about that flow of how a customer or a patient comes into your practice, what are the most important things that we need to have them do before they leave, to the point even like they have me fill out a card still of an appointment reminder, and I'm like, I'm putting it in my phone right now. Believe me, it's more of a hassle for me to try to call you to schedule a time for me to get a cleaning because it's just so out of mind. Yeah. Versus when it just is like, oh, like May 1st, 2 o'clock, I'm in there getting clean because it's just that's on my calendar and it makes sense. But
absolutely, that anticipatory experience where like they already have things planned and systems in place, and you're like, wow, like this is a well-run machine.
Well, yeah, like why wouldn't I keep going back there? Like now they're pitching me again on this stinking chipped tooth of like getting a not an implant but a crown put on, and it's like, of course I trust you guys. Like you know what you're doing. You've already proven to me that you do that. So it's like there's just I don't know. There's that level of like comfort, and why would I ever want to leave them? Even if I moved further away, like right now it's about 12-minute drive, which I feel like I've never been that close to my dentist before, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
But like even if I lived 30 minutes away, I'd be like, I don't trust anybody else. I don't want to find anybody else because they've already won my business now because I'm like, I'm good.
Totally. That's fantastic. I love hearing that. And about what's it like? Just give us a little insight. Will you Podium, what's the vibe there like, and how do you guys come up with so much innovation?
Well, yeah, like I mean, part of the fun things about Podium or being there is honestly like the freedom to be able to kind of pursue new problems that kind of pop up. So we try to reach out to many customers as we possibly can. Like right now, actually this week, where the development team is doing what we call hackathon, which is kind of more of a way, I think it got pulled from Google. But the idea is like, let's go like, we're doing like our core platform, right? Like we have like our standard stuff that we have, and we make iterations and make it better. And then we go to the next like outer ring, which is kind of more about like innovative things like voice, like things that we've kind of tested out, figured out that this is a really good value. Then there's like the things that are even further out than that. And I think hackathon is kind of more of that idea where video chat, for example, is one of those things where it's kind of like out there. Does it really play in this space? How hard would it be to develop? And it's kind of like just this like tester or a trial balloon that we kind of throw out there to see how it goes. And if it's something big, then we'll put it in the roadmap in the next kind of like near future potentially. And I think like even having that, like we had awesome submissions, and sometimes like the problems could be internal things that are just like crazy that, you know, the soda machine's out, how do we make that better, or how do we get notifications that Dr. Pepper's low or whatever, like that kind of thing, versus like actual things that will help people, specifically like dental practices or anybody else really that's just running a business that's doing business locally, and how do we make that better for them. And this is like one of those things that we do, is that hackathon twice a year, that it kind of gives a nice little fresher too of like understanding like, oh yeah, like we're trying to do amazing stuff for people that are really honestly keeping all of us happy. So
that's incredible. And thank you so much for the innovation, and thank you for video chat. That's been a game changer for offices that we work with doing virtual smile consultations.
Well, it's funny though, like even because I think when video chat was originally built, it was specifically for dentists, like healthcare providers, like therapists, people that couldn't basically get on with a patient. But then we started finding like all these awesome use cases. One of those being what you just mentioned, being able to kind of have like a virtual preliminary kind of meeting with a patient.
Yeah.
One of those though was we started to see HVAC companies basically use video chat to where they would have, I would call in, they would say, jump on a video chat with us. I'd jump on a video chat and show them the problem that was happening within my furnace or my air conditioning unit or something. And then we start to see like, oh, like the company's now able to order the part before even having to send a person out, wasting potential time or even like, you know, the shift of that person. And again, like being able to benefit from that. So they schedule another meeting to come out on Tuesday to actually fix the piece or whatever it was. Yeah. So it's like, it's funny just because if you give, I feel like when we give new products or features, thinking that it's going to fit these type of customers really well, it also fits everybody else because people are just so hungry for innovation.
Yeah.
I mean, even if, like, I think about like, I walk into the new my dentist, and it's like, I'm getting a 3D imagery X-ray of my teeth, and like it took them like 2 seconds. And I remember like having to go stand in a different room where I wore like a lead vest and all these different things. It's like that innovation right there. Why shouldn't you not have the same type of innovation happening with the way that you communicate to your customers, and also creating kind of like lasting experience for your overall office? Like people spend so much money to do like having the most or the best tools. We can get them that way too by creating better products and features and so on.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the time we're all sitting on things that are gold and we don't even realize it. It's fascinating. Like for instance, you guys had video chat out for a while, and I never really focused on it. So usually when I'm speaking or working with an office, we always recommend obviously reviews, you know, and it's in its own category for scaling up social proof. Web chat's been amazing. You got payments. And I kind of like knew about video chat, and then I was on, I think I called into one of your sales calls. You know? And then like, so yeah, here's what happened. So I called into like your sales meetings, and there were 3 of us like consultants that called in. but I was in like the virtual green room, like waiting to like get into your thing with another one of your KOLs. And this guy, he was in the furniture business, I think in Wisconsin, real nice guy. I was like, what's been great for you, with you Podium? He's like, video chat. I'm like, really? He's like, and he told me, I'm like, oh, wait a second. And at that time, I had another idea that we were rolling out for another office. We were trying to build out virtual smile consultations, the feature on an existing WordPress website, just because I felt like I wanted to keep that whole experience with the uploading of selfies and pictures on the website. So we were building it out, but we didn't really know at the time like how we would handle the conversion or the actual virtual smile consultation. I think we were going to use there's that one free HIPAA compliant platform. I forget what it's called. Anyway, there's like a couple cool video platforms out there, but some of them they'd either free or they'd have to pay for it. It's a whole other service. And as soon as like the words video chat were coming out of his mouth, I'm like, that's the answer. So now we're building out the virtual smile consultation for like any client that wants it, and we're just syncing it with video chat. Dude, so some of these things we build and we don't really know immediately ROI or if they're using it. But now that we're starting to do our coaching calls with offices, I was on a call last week. He's like, yeah. And this is a really nice practice in upstate, like Rochester area, Rochester, New York. Someone did a virtual smile consultation. They're now driving 2 hours to get the procedure done.
Wow.
It's insane.
Well, it's trusted, right?
What?
You're going to go wherever you trust.
Right, yeah. And then this other practice in Orange County, someone had a broken chipped tooth. They did a virtual smile consultation, and then she booked an experience, like the patient appointment, right? So like that was like a layup. And a lot of the practices, they were like already were paying for video chat. I think I might have been like part of their program already with Podium. So they were sitting on this amazing innovation, amazing tool. They had web chat on the website. Now all they got to do is move web chat to video chat. So it's amazing. That's why it's like that adjacent possible. When you say yes to one really great idea or service, i.e. Podium, all these other things cool come up because you're just part of an incredible ecosystem, right? And I'm not just saying that because you're on the podcast here. It's the truth. Like I wish there were more podiums to like talk about and refer to anyone I even come across with in dentistry, because it is a game changer. I love it how your slogan, and by the way, you're wearing a sweatshirt right now that says "Just Do It." No one could see this because we're just doing audio, but that's an amazing slogan. But also your slogan is your unfair advantage. It's so true, because anyone that uses Podium, it's literally your unfair advantage. You know, tapping into social proof, micro moments with the communication, payments, video chat, like all these other things, voice. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. No, honestly, I feel like we all get, people that work at Podium, we all get excited just because, like, when COVID hit, it was a big shift. Us understanding the weight of trying to help people. Yeah. Like, how to help businesses actually stay open and how do you still provide a good service. So hearing even, like, you flexing or wanting to flex more of the product to help, obviously, dental offices being able to capture more leads and like qualify them is such an awesome idea. We just launched SMS campaigns or SMS marketing, which is such a fun project because you get more now with people who have opted in to actually communicate with you, and so now you can actually help work kind of more around like deals that you may have or offerings that you may have, like bleach trays, or in fact, my dentist hit me up the last time I was there, gave me a great offer to be able to start bleaching my teeth, and it was just like it was a no-brainer for me because, again, it's like I already trust you guys. You're going to give me more stuff that's going to make me feel more confident about my teeth and my smile. Why wouldn't I do that? Sure. And I think, again, it's a big heavy lift, and it's a big community, and we're all just trying to work together to figure out what's best.
I agree. Well, it's great stuff.
One thing I would say is, like, for a roadmap or a vision of like Podium, we've kind of, Eric, our CEO, has made it kind of drew the line in the sand, if I may say, of like our goal for Podium is to have all communication that you have with a customer or a prospect or a patient live and coming into Podium, and also all of the transactions or payments. And so that's what we're working towards. So voice, like this missed call and voicemail, is just kind of the tip of the iceberg in that sense. Like payments was really just text to pay, and to us, we're like, what does that actually mean for anybody? And more we keep seeing is people saving so much more money on collections because they're actually able to get a hold of the person that's out, that hasn't paid fully for their treatment.
Yeah.
And so that's just another win that we've seen over and over again. And now we've added like card readers, so when people check out, or if they're paying their co-pays with the card on file, we're just building out that product as well. So it's just like, again, how do we basically house or bring in all the communication, whether it be through phone or email or text message with a patient, and then at the same time too, how do we also bring in all the payments? So
it's unbelievable. Well, we appreciate the innovation, the platform, the services. I'm really excited to see how voice plays out here for offices. I know it's going to be a game changer. And thanks so much for joining us, and come back again soon so we can talk about the SMS rollout and everything else you guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, cool thing about voice right now is it's free. So if you have Podium, you can get it. It's obviously in its early phases. We'll be adding additional features to it, and it's gonna be pretty awesome. We'll have probably pricing will come in a little bit later when we add a couple different things, but
yeah.
Right now the missed phone call and voicemail it's there just to help you guys fill some gaps that can happen within your office. So I honestly, Brad, thanks so much for the time, man. It's so much fun to talk to you and to even go more in depth too, specifically with dental, just because teeth has always been such an issue in my mind and in my life, just because of more accidents that just happen throughout my life. And so it's good to also be able to have a reference point as a good dentist that I have in Utah. So it's good. That's
great. Well, I appreciate that. And dentistry is amazing. There's so much innovation in the space, cool technology, incredible community of people. And I know Podium's really appreciate it. So thanks again for joining us. And thank you everyone for tuning into this episode of Buzz. If you implement Podium and their new voice feature, you'll have more conversion, happy patients, and most importantly, you'll be a wizard of buzz. Take care.
Podium is the premier messaging platform that helps boost your practice 3 ways: driving customer reviews, turning site traffic into text messages with web chat, and generating real-time feedback. To see more, go to podium.com/buzz for a special offer.